The entire class can hear the inner thoughts of the stunning class beauty. When I requested leave due to menstrual cramps during military training, she shook her head and sighed. What should I do? Should I reveal to everyone that Bai Shuang is feigning illness? If exposed, the entire class will suffer the consequences and incur the wrath of the instructor. Upon hearing this, the instructor genuinely believed I was pretending to be ill and punished the whole class by making us run 30 laps. After that, I found myself ostracized by my classmates. When I applied for financial aid due to my family's hardships, she internally ridiculed me. Her family is hardly impoverished, they own a car and a house. She is merely vain, seeking to deceive the system for financial assistance to purchase an iPhone, while the truly needy are left to suffer. Upon hearing her words, my classmates tacitly chose not to support me. Unable to secure the financial aid, I was forced to juggle 3 part-time jobs to make ends meet, leading to exhaustion that triggered a heart attack. Desperately, I pleaded with my classmates to call an ambulance, yet her cruel thoughts echoed in my mind. She doesn't have a heart condition, she's pregnant, and wants to manipulate someone into taking her to the hospital for an abortion, all the while framing that person for her. Predicament. My classmates avoided me, watching helplessly as I succumbed to a heart attack in the classroom. Even in death, I remained oblivious as to why I had met such a fate. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back on the day of military training, grappling with menstrual pain. Little did the beautiful class representative know, this time I could hear her thoughts as well. Under the shade of a tree, I clutched my abdomen tightly, while seated on the grass. Before me, my classmates were enduring the scorching sun during military training. Stand tall, keep your chest out, march. The instructor demanded perfection in every movement. In my previous life, I had reveled in the excitement of embarking on a new chapter in university, completely oblivious to the fact that these very individuals would become the architects of my demise. As I had anticipated, the next moment, the inner voice of the stunning class representative, Yi Qingqing, resonated in my mind. What should I do? Should I inform everyone that Bai Shuang is intentionally faking her illness? If revealed, it would implicate the entire class, leading to punishment from the instructor. I raised my gaze to the front, where Yi Qingqing stood, and did not miss the malice etched on her face. How ironic. I saw her devouring ice cream at noon. There's no way she's actually experiencing menstrual cramps. The instructor has been watching her closely, he might have already discerned her ruse. As I withdrew my gaze, I caught the instructor frowning in my direction. With a stern expression, he instructed the classmates to rest in place before striding towards me. In my previous life, Yi Qingqing had employed her deceptive inner voice to fabricate lies, leading the instructor to suspect I was feigning illness. In a fit of rage, he punished the entire class by making us run 30 laps around the field. The class, too fearful to blame the instructor, redirected their ire towards me, collectively isolating and subjecting me to silent bullying. At the time, I believed it was my fault for taking leave and dragging the class down, and thus, I endured in silence. Only after my rebirth did I realize it was all orchestrated by Yi Qingqing from behind the scenes, but she was unaware that this time, I could hear her thoughts. The instructor stood before me, his voice sharp. Bai Shuang, all 47 of your classmates are working hard, and yet you choose to feign illness and shirk your responsibilities. Do you have no shame? I replied softly, Instructor, I truly am unwell. He scoffed, I can see through your little tricks. I've encountered many who claim to be in pain during military training. Today, I will teach you what collective honor means. Everyone will run 30 laps around the field, you will only rest once the last lap is completed. That includes your return to your position. Upon hearing this, my classmates glared at me with fury. Ugh, you're a menace. You're comfortable while we all suffer, because of you. If you're really in pain, why haven't you collapsed yet? Better to spare us from your burden. Silently, I returned to the ranks, and while adjusting my uniform, I concealed a chipped hairpin in my palm. As I ran, I pressed the pin sharply against my inner thigh, the agonizing pain coursing through me, a warm trickle sliding down my leg. Noticing my slowing pace, the instructor approached me. Do you see? They're being punished because you pretended to be ill. Are you not ashamed? I bit my lip tightly, the hairpin digging deeper into my wound. Bai Shuang, do you understand your mistake? Just as I was about to respond, a classmate running beside me suddenly screamed. Ah! Bai Shuang, she's bleeding. The ground is covered in blood. The instructor chuckled coldly, trying to feign illness again. In the next moment, he noticed the long trail of blood behind me, my pants soaked red and still oozing blood. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the instructor's expression change drastically, and with a final closing of my eyes, I collapsed onto the ground. When I awoke, I found myself in the infirmary. The squad leader was pressing the instructor to apologize on my behalf. Student Bai, This matter was a grave misunderstanding on the part of Instructor Zhang. I will ensure he publicly acknowledges your innocence before the entire class. I lowered my head, replying, Squad leader, there is no need for an apology. I wish to request a different instructor. He has unjustly concluded that I was feigning illness based solely on a few words from Yi Qingqing. Such a person is utterly unworthy of being an instructor. The squad leader nodded in agreement, immediately acquiescing to my request. The instructor, his face ashen, attempted to plead his case, but was silenced by the squad leader's stern gaze. Once I had sufficiently recovered, the squad leader personally escorted me back to class, where he restored my reputation by demanding the instructor apologize publicly. The instructor, filled with remorse, stated, Student Bai, I should never have wrongfully accused you of feigning illness. I am truly sorry. I nodded, accepting his apology in silence. Just as the instructor exhaled in relief, the squad leader's voice cut through the air. Zhang Cheng, your baseless punishment of a student has resulted in a grave error. Orders from above dictate your dismissal. I was taken aback, having assumed the instructor would merely face disciplinary action. I could scarcely believe he was to be expelled, rendered incapable of serving in the military, thus sealing his future. The instructor too realized the weight of this consequence. Yet he dared not direct his ire toward me or the squad leader. In a fit of rage, he seized Yi Qingqing's wrist and hurled accusations at her. Wretched woman. If it weren't for your claim that Bai Shuang was feigning illness, I would never have punished her. You are the reason for my expulsion.
Yevink.
Her face a mask of fear, struggled against his grip, pleading, I don't understand what you're saying. Let go of me. Dare you still argue? He retorted. Don't think I haven't noticed. From the very first day of military training, you cast venomous glances at Bai Shuang. Can you claim you weren't deliberately inciting me against her? This revelation struck like thunder, and those who could hear Yi Qingqing's thoughts believed her guilt. I too recalled the numerous times she had glared fiercely at Bai Shuang, as if wishing her harm. No wonder we had only heard her speak ill of Bai Shuang. It was jealousy that fueled her words. The instructor, hearing these accusations, grew even angrier and viciously gripped Yi Qingqing's throat. Wretched woman, you shall pay for this. The scene descended into chaos, but fortunately, the squad leader summoned others to separate them. As he was dragged away, the instructor continued to shout, Wretched woman, wait for me. I will not let this go. Yi Qingqing's expression shifted rapidly as she cast several disdainful glances my way, her face betraying her humiliation. I quietly scoffed. This was just the beginning. And she was already unraveling. The new instructor showed me considerable care, advising me to inform him should I feel unwell. I nodded in agreement and persevered through the military training. Originally swayed by Yi Qingqing's poisonous words, my classmates who had looked upon me with dissatisfaction began to change their views. A few even approached me privately to apologize for their harsh words regarding my supposed feigned illness. I graciously forgave them, pretending not to hold any grudges. As for Yi Qingqing, the pain of being subjected to emotional abuse and isolation that I had endured in my previous life, I now ensured she experienced as well. The military training soon concluded, and the day to apply for financial aid arrived. In my previous life, when I had applied for the poverty scholarship, Yi Qingqing had maliciously claimed to her thoughts that I was a wealthy second generation, owning several rental properties, and that I would use the funds to buy the latest iPhone 17. The counselor had believed her, subsequently awarding the scholarship to others who were deemed more deserving. With only 200 yuan for my monthly living expenses, I had been forced to undertake 3 part-time jobs to make ends meet. Ultimately, the exhaustion had led to a heart condition. I regained my focus and raised my eyes to see my classmates sequentially stepping onto the podium to share their financial hardships, pleading for votes in their favor. Soon it was my turn. Just as I was about to speak, Yi Qingqing's thoughts echoed in my mind. Here comes Bai Shuang, ready to play the victim. She is clearly a wealthy second generation. Her sandals cost 58,000. If she receives the poverty scholarship,
She will use it to buy an iPhone.
the expressions of my classmates shifted, their gazes turning hostile. Yi Qingqing continued her tirade in her thoughts. If someone like Bai Shuang gets the poverty scholarship, what will happen to the truly impoverished students? Without this funding, they may not be able to complete their university education. Does Bai Shuang's conscience not ache for prioritizing vanity by purchasing an iPhone, potentially forcing genuinely needy students to drop out? The counselor's face darkened further as he interrupted me. Bai Shuang, I don't believe your circumstances are as dire as you claim. This year's poverty scholarship will be awarded to other students. Unflustered, I produced my proof of poverty. Sir, I have a community certificate confirming my family's financial difficulties. Like everyone else, I too require this scholarship. Observing the counselor's demeanor soften, I retrieved my worn secondhand phone, taking 3 minutes to navigate to the order history on a discount app. If you don't believe me, you may review my spending for the past 6 months. One hand held the phone aloft while the other scrolled through the screen. 99 yuan for this shirt, 59 for these pants, 3 yuan for these shoes, and 10 yuan for 10 pairs of socks. The only expenditure exceeding 100 was for my phone bill. Clearly taken aback by the starkness of my financial situation, the counselor stared at the bill in disbelief for several seconds. My classmates were equally astonished. One fellow applicant for the poverty scholarship blurted out, "Can you even wear clothes that cost 99 yuan?" I gestured to my faded, pilly shirt and nodded affirmatively. "I can wear them." Once again, the class's gaze shifted. But this time, it was directed at Yi Qingqing with contempt. Her expression faltered, and her thoughts betrayed her again. I never expected Bai Shuang to be so cunning, having prepared her spending records in advance. It's unfortunate that her shoes have betrayed her. They are a limited edition design from a luxury brand, rumored to cost 58,000 each. As the crowd fixated on my sandals, some students pulled out their phones to photograph and search online. Discovering the truth of Yi Qingqing's claims, outrage rippled through the room. Bai Shuang, your sandals alone are worth our entire 4 years of living expenses. Why do you still compete with us for the poverty scholarship? The speaker was another applicant for the funds. The counselor's expression turned to one of disdain. Bai Shuang, a student of such questionable character does not belong in our class. I calmly interjected, "Sir, I can explain." The counselor impatiently interrupted. "What is there to explain? I have already verified that your shoes are authentic. I cannot afford a pair costing 58,000 yuan, and you still dare to claim you are impoverished." Other students echoed in agreement. "Bai Shuang, if you are so wealthy, do not compete with us for the poverty scholarship. Without this money, we will have no choice but to drop out and return to work." I found myself surrounded, as if my dissent would prevent me from leaving. Observing this scene, my expression darkened as I pondered how to respond when a knock at the door interrupted. An elderly woman dressed in tattered clothing stood awkwardly at the entrance, clutching a bag filled with items. Upon seeing her, several classmates waved their hands dismissively. Where did this beggar come from? This is a university, not a garbage dump. Her odor is unbearable. Security should remove her. I was momentarily taken aback, but pushed past those blocking my way, my face lighting up with surprise as I approached her. "Grandma, what brings you here?" Hearing this, the entire class exchanged skeptical glances between me and the elderly woman. She reached into a pocket of her clothing, retrieving a plastic bag filled with loose change. The coins were mostly small denominations, and not a single bill exceeded 50 yuan.
Yet,
This meager sum was the result of several months of her collecting money from selling recyclables. Shuang, when you came to school, Grandma didn't have any money to give you for living expenses. This is what I earned this month from selling recyclables. Please take it as your allowance, and don't lose it. My heart ached, and I pushed the money back toward her. Grandma, you don't need to. I applied for the poverty scholarship and will receive funds soon. Upon hearing those words, the grandmother's face lit up with excitement as she hurried to the counselor, grasping her hand in gratitude. You must be Shuang's teacher. Thank you for granting her the poverty scholarship. Shuang is a child of misfortune. Her parents perished in a car accident shortly after her birth. I have raised her by scavenging through refuse over the years. I was genuinely worried that the money I earned from selling scrap wouldn't suffice for Shuang's living expenses, but now with this scholarship, she can finally have a full meal. You are truly a good person, teacher. Just as the counselor was about to respond, Yi Qingqing's inner voice echoed again. Oh no, the teacher is about to be deceived. She isn't Shuang's grandmother. She is an actress she hired. The two of them bear no resemblance. How could they possibly be related? Shuang is indeed going to great lengths for the sake of this scholarship. The crowd's gaze shifted back to me and my grandmother, murmuring amongst themselves. Shuang and her grandmother had distinctly different facial shapes. How could they be a grandparent and grandchild? Could it be that Shuang truly hired someone to act for the scholarship? The wealthy become increasingly stingy for money. They resort to any means necessary. Yi Qingqing stood amidst the crowd, relishing the sight of me being scrutinized. The counselor withdrew her hand from my grandmother's grasp, disappointment etched across her face. Shuang, did your elementary school teacher not teach you the virtue of honesty? If you desire the poverty scholarship, why not apply for it openly? You've fabricated false consumption records, and now you've gone so far as to hire someone to act. Do you have any respect for me as your teacher? The grandmother, flustered and bewildered, pleaded, "Teacher, I am truly Shuang's grandmother. She has not deceived you." The counselor ignored her, fixing a cold stare upon me. Shuang, you have lied repeatedly, your words devoid of truth. You are unworthy of being a student at our school. In the name of the counselor, you are expelled. Now, leave our school." The grandmother knelt down in distress, almost in tears. "Teacher, Shuang has not lied. I beg you, do not expel her." I gritted my teeth and pulled my grandmother up. "Grandma, do not kneel. Let us go." My grandmother clutched me, her face awash with tears. "You worked so hard to gain admission to university. You cannot leave. If you do, your life will be over." Shuang never anticipated that her scheme would backfire. Did she? Serves her right. Thankfully, the counselor is astute and has seen through her true nature. The counselor, her thoughts of letting it go dissipated, regarded us with utter disdain. "Two students, throw them out, lest they contaminate the air of our class." Several classmates advanced, dragging me and my grandmother toward the exit. At that moment, the principal hurried in with a group of people. The principal, visibly excited, exclaimed, "Teacher Liu, where is Shuang from your class? Bring her out quickly." The counselor, perplexed, suddenly seemed to recall something and adopted a sycophantic demeanor. "Principal, you need not intervene. I have already expelled her." The principal, taken aback, raised his voice in shock. "What did you say? You expelled Shuang?" The counselor, brimming with pride, replied, "Indeed. Shuang concealed her family circumstances to apply for the poverty scholarship and even hired someone to act. Such actions tarnish the reputation of our school. She is no longer a student here, and her actions are irrelevant to us." The counselor reveled in her self-satisfaction, oblivious to the principal's increasingly dark expression. "Who abruptly thrust a stack of newspapers into the counselor's face? Who permitted you to expel her? Open your eyes and see this." The counselor looked at the newspaper in confusion. "Principal, this is just an ordinary newspaper. What is there to see?" The principal, nearly choking on his anger, pointed to a photo that occupied a third of the page. "Look closely. Do you recognize who she is?" Upon realizing the identity of the person in the newspaper, the counselor's expression shifted drastically. How could it be Shuang? When did she become the only university student from Daliangshan in nearly 20 years? A journalist beside the principal chimed in, "We just received news that Shuang has come to your esteemed school, which is why we specifically came to interview her." The counselor, skeptical, retorted, "I suspect this news is false. Shuang cannot possibly be from Daliangshan." The journalists exchanged glances. "How do you know?" The counselor scoffed. "Shuang is adorned in luxury brands, while Daliangshan is notoriously impoverished. If she were truly from Daliangshan, where would she have the money to indulge? Moreover, such a person does not deserve an interview. She clearly has a car and a house, yet pretends to be poor to deceive for a poverty scholarship. If I hadn't discovered this in time, she would have snatched the opportunity from a genuinely needy student." The journalist frowned slightly. "That's impossible. Shuang's family is very poor. Her tuition fees throughout her schooling were waived due to her excellent performance. Even the fare to university this time was contributed by every villager, each giving a small amount." The counselor, assertively, replied, "You have all been deceived. Just look at her shoes, which cost 58,000. Even I cannot afford such. How could she possibly be a poor student from Daliangshan?" Following the direction of the counselor's finger, everyone turned to look at my shoes. The journalist, puzzled, noted that while it was true I was from Daliangshan, my shoes did not appear to be a fabrication. After a moment of hesitation, the journalist asked, "Shuang classmate, where did your shoes come from?" "They were given to me by my grandmother." Upon hearing this, the counselor's eyes lit up. "You all heard that. The shoes were given to her by her grandmother, indicating her family is not poor at all. She is merely lying to deceive for the poverty scholarship." The expressions of everyone changed, with classmates glaring at me in outrage, as if I were a villain. The principal and the journalists, however, looked disapproving. "Shuang classmate, as a student it is wrong to lie." My grandmother, anxiously trying to speak, was silenced by me. Calmly, I pointed to the snakeskin bag beside my grandmother. "Today, my grandmother also brought me some other clothes and shoes. You may take a look, and if you like any, you are welcome to take them." Yi Qingqing, who had been silent until now, let out a cold laugh. Shuang, your family truly has money. You casually store items worth thousands in a snakeskin bag." I turned to her, a meaningful smile gracing my lips. "Since you like them, consider them all yours." Upon hearing this, The faces of my classmates displayed jealousy and urgency, while some looked on with envy. Yet in the next moment, all expressions froze. I inverted the snakeskin bag and poured out the clothes and shoes within. Each item was a luxury brand, yet clearly worn, with several pairs of shoes caked in thick mud. The journalist, quick on the uptake, snapped a flurry of photos of the items strewn on the ground. Once finished, he curiously asked, "Shuang classmate, why are all these clothes and shoes used?" "These were just picked from a garbage heap by my grandmother." As my words hung in the air, the crowd stood in stunned silence. "No way. Shuang actually wears discarded items?" The grandmother hastily explained, "These clothes and shoes are still good. They just need a wash to be wearable." The journalist, with a complex expression, asked, "Shuang classmate, are all your clothes from the garbage heap?"
No.
Yi Qingqing and the counselor's expressions brightened, just as they were about to accuse me, only to have their smiles freeze on their faces. Aside from the clothes my grandmother picked from the garbage, some were donated by kind-hearted people. I lifted my foot, showcasing the shoes I was wearing. These shoes were donated by kind-hearted individuals. I remember there was coverage online. Upon hearing this, the journalist immediately took out his phone to search, quickly locating the donation news from that time. He compared it and confirmed that my shoes were identical to those donated by the kind-hearted individuals. My classmates also witnessed this, and all turned their angry glares towards Yi Qingqing and the counselor. My grandmother wiped her tears, a bitter sigh escaping her lips. Shuang, it's all my fault for thinking those shoes looked nice and letting you wear them. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have been expelled." The expressions of everyone in the room shifted, while the journalists remained filled with confusion. "Grandma, what do you mean by that? Why is by being expelled because of these shoes?" The grandmother, filled with indignation, pointed at the counselor. "He claims that Shuang wears brand-name shoes, and thus, she cannot be a student from a poor background. Not only does he refuse to grant her the financial aid she deserves, but he also seeks to expel her." Kneeling before the principal and reporters, she wept as she pleaded, "Principal, Shuang has not lied. I beg you, do not expel her. She is the only university student from Daliangshan, and the entire village hopes she can complete her education and secure a good job. Please, I implore you." The reporters hurriedly captured this poignant scene. The principal's face turned pale. If this matter was not handled properly today, and it spread online, his own days of comfort would come to an end. With this thought, his expression darkened, not towards the grandmother, but towards the counselor. The principal helped the grandmother to her feet and repeatedly assured her that Shuang would not be expelled. Once he had calmed her, he turned his furious gaze upon the counselor. "Zhang Guqing, you are merely a counselor. What gives you the right to expel students at will?" The reporter chimed in, "Mr. Zhang, are you targeting student Bai Shuang?" The counselor, sweating profusely, stammered and could not utter a word. At that moment, he spotted Yi Qingqing in the crowd. It was she who claimed that Bai Shuang was a rich second-generation student, pretending to be poor to swindle financial aid, and I too had been deceived by her. Yi Qingqing, taken aback by the counselor's accusation, suddenly wore a panicked expression. Yet, she quickly adopted a look of grievance. "Teacher, I never said that. You cannot shift the blame onto me to evade responsibility." The counselor spat disdainfully. "Last time, you incited the instructor against Bai Shuang, leading to the instructor's dismissal. Today, I was foolish enough to believe your words." Yi Qingqing, indignant, retorted, "Clearly, it was you who looked down upon Bai Shuang and her grandmother for their poverty. Everyone in the class witnessed you saying her grandmother polluted the air and wanted to throw her out." The two exchanged barbs, each accusing the other. The reporter did not miss a moment, with the camera nearly pressed against their faces. Ultimately, it was the principal who intervened, halting their quarrel. The principal scrutinized both Yi Qingqing and the counselor, then coldly declared, "Zhang Guqing, you have violated school regulations by expelling students at your whim. Effective immediately, you are dismissed." Upon hearing this, the counselor's face turned ashen. The principal, uninterested in further discourse, turned to Yi Qingqing and said, "Yi Qingqing, for spreading rumors, you will receive a serious reprimand." Just as Yi Qingqing was about to argue, the principal's icy glare silenced her, and she redirected her fury towards me. After addressing the counselor, the principal publicly announced that I would be granted the financial aid. When the other students who had applied for the aid realized my circumstances were indeed more desperate than theirs, they accepted the outcome with grace. That very evening, the largest television station in the province aired the story, including interviews with me. My plight garnered significant attention, and soon, benevolent individuals reached out, offering to support my education. I did not decline their generosity. With their assistance, I no longer needed to work 3 jobs to survive and could dedicate time to care for my grandmother. Only then did I learn that my grandmother had traveled over 30 hours on a green train to find me, all to save money. Concerned for her safety on the return journey, I pleaded with her to stay. She rented a basement near the school and scavenged for bottles daily to make ends meet. On weekends, I would take on work to ease her burden. A month passed swiftly. With a new counselor in place, Yi Qingqing's malicious whispers ceased. Just as I thought I would not hear them again, the gazes of my classmates shifted once more. One day during self-study, as I engrossed myself in my books, I suddenly felt discomfort in my heart. Just as I reached for my medication, I realized that the pills I always carried were nowhere to be found. As my heartache intensified, I took out my phone to call for an ambulance, but to my dismay, the device had frozen and refused to respond. Sensing something was amiss, I tapped my deskmate to ask for help in calling for assistance. Just as I opened my mouth, a sharp pain seized my chest, causing me to collapse to the floor. My deskmate, panic-stricken, rushed to support me. Bai Shuang, what's wrong? Are you okay? I struggled to speak. I am having a heart attack. Please call for an ambulance. Just as my deskmate retrieved his phone, Yi Qingqing's malicious whispers pierced through the air unexpectedly. Bai Shuang is trying to deceive again. She doesn't have a heart condition. She's 2 months pregnant and wants to trick someone into taking her to the hospital, only to shift the blame onto that person. Anyone who takes her to the hospital will find themselves entangled with her. Following the events of the past, the class was skeptical of Yi Qingqing's words, yet apprehensive that this time it might be true. Observing their indecision, Yi Qingqing's voice echoed once more. If you don't believe me, go check the restroom. Bai Shuang discarded a pregnancy test there. At her words, several students promptly exited the classroom. They returned shortly, their faces clouded with anger. Bai Shuang, stop pretending. We saw the pregnancy test you threw in the restroom. You cannot pin your baby on us. How shameless can you be, trying to drag us down with your own mess? I wished to protest that I had done no such thing, but the pain in my heart rendered me speechless. The entire class looked at me with disappointment. If you wish to feign illness, do so on your own. With that, they all stood and left the classroom, leaving only Yi Qingqing and me in the large room. Gasping for breath, I struggled to look at her. It's you who is harming me. Perhaps sensing the absence of witnesses, Yi Qingqing unabashedly revealed her malice. What of it? I sprinkled your medication in the classroom, deliberately triggering your heart condition. With a gleam of triumph in her eyes, she continued, You didn't expect this, did you? I took your medication long ago. Your broken phone? That was my doing as well. The counselor and instructor targeting you? That was orchestrated by me. They believed my whispers about you. She smirked. It's a pity these 2 fools, like the fickle classmates, still let you stand in this classroom. I could hardly believe it. I have never wronged you. Why do you wish to harm me? Yi Qingqing looked down at me. Your existence obstructs my path. Enjoy your final moments. As I felt a smile tugging at the corners of my mouth, I replied, I fear you will be disappointed. In the midst of Yi Qingqing's shock, I slowly rose from the ground. Her expression was one of disbelief. Didn't you just have a heart attack? How are you still alive? I replied coldly. If I do this, how will you ever admit to harming me? Yi Qingqing regained her composure. Even if I confess, what then? Can you call the police on me? You have not been harmed. The worst I would face is a verbal reprimand. I scoffed. Is that so? Just as I finished speaking, a group of individuals entered from outside. The leading officer stepped before Yi Qingqing, handcuffing her. Yi Qingqing, you are under arrest for attempted murder.
Je vink paničket.
I did not attempt to kill anyone. I was just joking with Bai Shuang. No sooner had she finished speaking than a slap echoed across the room.
Je vink. How dare you?
Her mother, Wang Yalan, glared at her with disdain. I am not your mother. You are the daughter of a nanny, usurping my daughter's identity. Bai Shuang is my true daughter. Yi Qingqing turned to Zhou Jiangwo, who offered her no glance, instead approaching me with a look of concern. Shuang, you have suffered. Yi Qingqing, in disbelief, exclaimed, How could you know Bai Shuang is your daughter? I smiled at her. Thanks to you, I was able to reunite with my parents. After the reporters left that day, my grandmother revealed my true heritage. I am not her biological granddaughter. She found me in a trash bin. And your face bears an uncanny resemblance to the person who abandoned me. My instinct told me that this was the reason behind Yi Qingqing's relentless animosity towards me. I located her parents and, upon seeing Wang Yalan's visage, a visage strikingly similar to mine, I deduced the truth. We proceeded with the paternity test, which confirmed that I was indeed their daughter. It was at this juncture that Wang Yalan disclosed that they had long been aware that Yi Qingqing was not their biological child and had spent years in search of me. This very concern led Yi Qingqing to fear that my return would jeopardize her status, prompting her to orchestrate numerous schemes against me. Despite this, they remained skeptical of Yi Qingqing's intentional malice, which compelled me to devise the plan I executed today. I was acutely aware of her intentions to induce a heart attack that would lead to my demise, thus I deliberately provided her with an opportunity. As I anticipated, she not only administered poison but also absconded with my life-saving medication. As for my classmates, who feigned indifference, they had long conspired with me. Their apparent departure was a ruse. They were secretly positioned outside the classroom, listening intently as Yi Qingqing revealed the truth. Upon hearing my account, Yi Qingqing's countenance turned ashen as she was taken away by the police. A couple of days later, the authorities informed me that they had discovered the reason we could hear Yi Qingqing's innermost thoughts. It turned out she had procured advanced technology abroad that synchronized our brainwaves with hers, allowing us to perceive her thoughts. However, experts dismantled the device, ensuring that we would no longer hear her voice. Before long, Yi Qingqing was sentenced to 5 years for attempted murder. Simultaneously, my parents publicly announced the termination of their adoption of her. After much persuasion from my mother, I welcomed my grandmother into our home. My parents expressed their gratitude to her, treating her with the affection of family. As for me, they were eager to compensate for over a decade of absence in my life. It wasn't long before we evolved into a genuine family. Observing my mother and grandmother bustling about in the kitchen, a smile unconsciously spread across my face. In this lifetime, I had finally altered the tragic ending of my previous existence.
The end.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the story, please consider subscribing and liking it for support. Until we meet again in the next tale.